The 6 habits no one sees from Chinese acupuncturists to target belly fat directly. Sarah pressed her fingers against her waistband and felt it dig into skin. 38 years old, 5 different diets in 3 years, a gym membership she'd used exactly 4 times this month. And still, this stubborn ring around her middle that seemed to laugh at every calorie she counted, every mile she ran, every kale smoothie she choked down. The fluorescent lights in Dr. Wei's acupuncture clinic felt softer than the ones at her marketing agency. No waiting room music, just the faint smell of something herbal, something warm. Sarah had come here because her friend Rachel swore by it. She fixed my shoulder in 3 sessions. But Sarah wasn't here for her shoulder. She was here because nothing else had worked. Dr. Wei was in her early 60s, small-framed, with grey streaking through black hair pulled into a low bun. She moved with an efficiency that felt unhurried. No clipboard, no typing into a computer, just eyes that seemed to read the exhaustion Sarah carried like a second skin. "You sleep well?" Dr. Wei asked, her accent slight but precise. 7 hours most nights, Sarah said automatically. "But do you wake rested?" The question landed differently. Sarah opened her mouth, closed it, thought about the alarm at 6:30 that felt like a betrayal every single morning, the coffee at 7, the second coffee at 10 nasusag, the way her mind still spun at midnight, scrolling through her phone, unable to turn off. "No," Sarah admitted, "I don't." Dr. Wei nodded as if this were the most important answer Sarah had given. She gestured toward the treatment table, then moved to a small side counter where a porcelain cup sat beside an electric kettle. Steam curled upward as she poured hot water over what looked like sliced ginger. "Western medicine sees belly fat as calories in, calories out, doctor," Wei said, stirring the cup slowly. "Chinese medicine sees it as stagnation, blocked energy, a nervous system that never rests." Sarah lay back on the table, staring at the ceiling tiles. She'd heard this kind of talk before. Energy, flow, balance, and part of her wanted to roll her eyes. But another part, the exhausted part that had tried everything else, stayed quiet. Dr. Wei placed the porcelain cup on the counter near Sarah's head. The scent of ginger filled the small room. Then she pressed her fingers along Sarah's abdomen, not roughly, but with a firmness that made Sarah inhale sharply. "Your belly is cold," Dr. Wei said, "tight. The spleen qi is weak. The liver qi is stuck." "I don't know what that means," Sarah said. "It means your body thinks it is always in danger. So it holds, it stores, it protects." The needles, when they came, were so thin Sarah barely felt them. Dr. Wei placed them along her wrists, her ankles, points on her abdomen. Sarah expected something dramatic, pain, heat, electricity. Instead, she felt nothing, just the hum of the electric kettle turning off, the smell of ginger, a growing warmth spreading from somewhere deep in her core. After 20 minutes, Dr. Wei removed the needles and handed Sarah the porcelain cup. "Drink," she said, slowly. The tea was hot, sharp, grounding. Sarah held the cup in both hands, feeling the heat against her palms. "Doctor." We sat on a stool beside the table, her posture so still it made Sarah aware of how much she fidgeted, how much she moved even when trying to be calm. "The needles are not the secret," Dr. Wei said quietly. "The secret is what I do every morning before I see patients, what I do after every meal, how I sleep, how I move, how I let my body rest." "What do you do?" Sarah asked. Dr. Wei smiled, but it wasn't the smile of someone about to sell a program or a product. It was the smile of someone who had lived long enough to know that wisdom sounds simple until you try to live it. "Come back next week," she said. "I will show you." Sarah left the clinic with the appointment card in her pocket and the taste of ginger still on her tongue. She didn't feel different, not yet, but as she walked to her car, she noticed something strange. Her shoulders had dropped, her breath had slowed, and for the first time in months, the tightness in her belly didn't feel quite so much like armor. That night, she stood in her kitchen at 11:02 p.m., phone in hand, about to scroll through Instagram while eating leftover pizza straight from the box. She stopped, put the phone down, heated water in the kettle instead, found an old ginger root in the back of the fridge and sliced a piece, remembering the way Dr. Wei had moved, calm, deliberate, without rushing. She didn't have a porcelain cup, just a regular mug, but as she sat at the table in the quiet dark, sipping hot ginger tea with no phone, no TV, no distraction, something inside her exhaled for the first time in years. It wasn't a miracle, it was just a cup of tea, but it was also the first night in months she fell asleep before midnight. If you've ever felt tired even after a full night of sleep, or frustrated with diets that don't last, tell us in the comments which part of this story feels familiar, and stay with us for the next chapters. Sarah's second appointment came 7 days later, during which she had drunk ginger tea 3 more times, not every night, but enough to notice that the night she did, she woke up less puffy, less swollen around the middle. She mentioned this to Dr. Wei, expecting dismissal or a scientific explanation that would make it feel less real. Instead, Dr. Wei just nodded. "Your body is starting to trust," she said. The treatment room looked the same. The porcelain cup sat on the counter, already filled with steaming ginger tea. This time, before the needles, Dr. Wei handed Sarah a small glass of warm water. "Drink this," she said, slowly, while sitting. Sarah obeyed, confused. It was just water, warm, but not hot. She drank it in 3 swallows. "No," Dr. Wei said gently, slowly, like this. She demonstrated, taking tiny sips, pausing between each one, her posture upright, her breathing steady. Sarah tried again. It felt absurdly slow, almost meditative. She wanted to check her phone. She wanted to finish and move on to the next thing. "This is the first habit," Dr. Wei said. "Every morning before food, before coffee, warm water, not cold, never cold. You wake your digestion. You tell your spleen, it is safe to work." "How does warm water help with belly fat?" Sarah asked. "Cold water shocks the system. It makes the body contract, protect. Warm water opens. It signals safety. And when the body feels safe, it stops holding everything so tight." Sarah thought about the iced coffee she drank every morning, the cold smoothies, the way she grabbed meals on the run, standing at the counter, scrolling through emails. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten sitting down, fully present, without a screen. Dr. Wei placed the needles again, wrists, ankles, abdomen. Then she did something Sarah hadn't expected. She pressed her fingers against Sarah's belly and moved them in slow circles, clockwise, starting near the navel and spiraling outward. "This is the second habit," Dr. Wei said. "Abdominal massage, every morning, 5 minutes. You are not rubbing fat away. You are moving qi, unblocking stagnation." Her fingers were firm, almost uncomfortable, but Sarah felt something shift, a gurgling deep in her intestines, a release of tension she hadn't known was there. Dr. Wei worked in silence for several minutes, then guided Sarah's hand to the same spot. "Here," she said. "Ren 12, stomach 25, spleen 15, press, circle, breathe." Sarah tried, her movements clumsy compared to Dr. Wei's precision. "It will feel strange at first," Dr. Wei said, "but your body remembers. The enteric nervous system, your second brain, is waiting for your attention." After the session, Sarah sat up slowly. Her belly felt softer, less rigid. Dr. Wei poured more ginger tea into the porcelain cup and handed it to her. "Start with these 2, she said. "Warm water in the morning, abdominal massage. Do not add more until these feel natural." Sarah wanted to ask how long that would take. She wanted a timeline, a guarantee, but Dr. Wei's calm presence made the question feel irrelevant. That week, Sarah set her alarm 15 minutes earlier. She heated water in the kettle while still half asleep, poured it into a mug, and sat at the kitchen table in the pre-dawn quiet. The first morning, she checked her phone while drinking. The second morning, she left the phone upstairs. The third morning, she noticed the way the warm water felt traveling down into her stomach, spreading warmth through her core. After the water, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror and pressed her fingers against her belly, circling clockwise the way Dr. Wei had shown her. It felt awkward, exposing. She kept glancing at the clock, worried about being late for work. But by the end of the week, something had shifted. Her belly felt less bloated in the mornings. Her digestion, which had been sluggish for years, started moving more regularly. Marcus, her co-worker, noticed her drinking warm water at her desk one afternoon. "What, giving up coffee now?" he joked. "Just trying something different," Sarah said. "You and your health kicks," Marcus said, shaking his head. "You'll be back to normal by next month." Sarah didn't argue. She just pressed her hand against her abdomen under the desk, feeling the slight softness that hadn't been there 2 weeks ago, and took another slow sip of warm water. That night, she made ginger tea again. Sat at the table with the lights low, no phone, no TV, just the warmth of the mug in her hands and the faint gurgling in her belly that sounded, for the first time in years, like her body was actually working with her instead of against her. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't fast, but it was happening. By the third appointment, Sarah had questions. The morning water and abdominal massage had become routine. Not easy, but automatic. She'd lost 3 pounds, but more importantly, her clothes fit differently. The constant bloating had eased. She woke up less puffy, but she wanted more. Dr. Wei listened, then asked a question Sarah didn't expect. "When do you eat breakfast?" "Whenever I have time. 7, 8, sometimes I skip it." "When is lunch?" 1, maybe 2. Depends on meetings." "Dinner?" 8, 9, sometimes 10 if I'm working late." "Doctor." Wei's expression didn't change, but Sarah felt judgment anyway. Not harsh, just factual, like a teacher grading a test Sarah had failed without knowing there was a test. "Your body has a clock," Dr. Wei said. "The organs have hours when they are strongest, when they can digest, transform, absorb. When you eat against this clock, the food becomes stagnation, dampness, belly fat." She drew a simple diagram on a piece of paper, a circle divided into segments, each labeled with an organ and a time range. "Stomach time is 7 to 9 in the morning," Dr. Wei explained. "This is when digestive fire is strongest. Breakfast should be warm, substantial. Lunch should be your largest meal before 2. Dinner should be small, warm, liquid. Soup, congee, before 7. Sarah stared at the diagram. Her entire eating pattern was inverted. She barely ate breakfast. Lunch was whatever she could grab between calls. Dinner was her main meal, often eaten while answering emails, usually heavy, usually late. "What if I can't?" Sarah asked. "What if my schedule doesn't allow it?" "Then your body will continue to store," Dr. Wei said simply. "Not because you eat too much, because you eat at the wrong time." The needles went in. The abdominal massage followed. But Sarah's mind stayed on the clock. She thought about all the diet advice she'd followed. Eat less, move more, count calories, avoid carbs. No one had ever mentioned when she ate. No one had ever suggested that timing mattered as much as content. "One more thing," Dr. Wei said as Sarah was leaving. "After every meal, walk, not exercise, not sweating, just 10 minutes, slow, breathing through your nose." "Why?" "To clear glucose before it becomes fat, to activate rest and digest, to tell your body the meal is finished, you are safe." That week Sarah tried. She woke earlier to eat breakfast. Oatmeal with ginger, eaten sitting down, no phone. She brought lunch from home and ate it at noon, away from her desk. Dinner became soup or leftover rice with vegetables, eaten at 6:30, then a slow walk around the block before settling in for the evening. Marcus watched her heat up soup in the office microwave at 6 p.m. before leaving. "You're eating here?" he said. "You know there are restaurants, right?" "I'm trying to eat earlier," Sarah explained. "That's weird," he said. "You're getting weird." Sarah felt the sting. Weird. Different. Not normal. She thought about defending herself, explaining the Chinese organ clock, the research on circadian rhythms and insulin sensitivity. But Marcus had already turned back to his computer, finishing a report he'd probably work on until 9, eating takeout at his desk at 10. She walked to her car instead, carrying her empty container, and drove home. Tom, her husband, had already eaten pizza again. The box sat open on the counter. "You're not eating?" he asked. "I ate at work," Sarah said. "Since when?" "Since now." She saw the confusion on his face, the slight irritation. Their routine had always been eating together late, collapsing on the couch with TV and snacks. Now she was changing the pattern, and it felt like a betrayal. But that night, after her slow walk, after sitting quietly with ginger tea in her regular mug, Sarah stood in front of the mirror and saw something she hadn't seen in years. Her belly looked flatter, not dramatically, not magazine cover flat, just less swollen, less angry, like it was finally exhaling. She pressed her fingers against the skin and felt softness where there had been tightness. She circled clockwise the way Dr. Wei had taught her, and felt the gentle gurgle of digestion moving the way it was supposed to. It was working, slowly, quietly, but it was working. Would you rather force yourself with willpower, or redesign your environment and habits like this character is learning to do? Comment which path makes more sense to you, and share this episode with someone who needs a gentler approach to change. The fourth appointment came during a difficult week. Sarah had a work trip scheduled, 2 days in Chicago for a conference. Hotels, restaurant meals, late networking dinners, all the things that had derailed every previous attempt at eating differently. Dr. Wei listened, then opened a drawer and pulled out something Sarah hadn't seen before, a small stick of compressed herb wrapped in paper about the size of a thick cigar. "Moxa," Dr. Wei said, "mugwort. We burn it to bring heat to cold points." She lit one end and held it above Sarah's lower abdomen, about an inch from the skin. Sarah felt warmth, not burning, just penetrating heat that seemed to sink deep into tissue. Dr. Wei held it over several points, just below the navel, along the sides of the belly, above the pubic bone. "This is the fourth habit," Dr. Wei said. "Heat. Your belly is cold, tight, closed. Heat opens. It moves blood. It activates fat burning." "I can't exactly burn moxa in a hotel room," Sarah said. Dr. Wei smiled. "Use a heating pad or a hot water bottle. 20 minutes twice a day, morning and night on your lower belly. The principle is the same," she explained. Western medicine was beginning to understand what Chinese medicine had known for millennia. Localized heat increased blood flow, stimulated mitochondrial activity, activated brown fat, the metabolic tissue that burned white fat for warmth. Cold bellies, tight from stress and stored tension, couldn't release. Heat unlocked them. After the moxa, Dr. Wei did something else Sarah hadn't expected. She pressed her fingers firmly into the sides of Sarah's ribs, just below the breastline. "Liver qi," she said. "When you are stressed, angry, frustrated, where do you feel it?" Sarah thought about it. Chest tight, shoulders up, breath shallow. "Here," she said, touching her ribcage. "Exactly. This is the fifth habit. When stress comes, release liver qi. Step outside. Exhale fully. Empty your lungs completely. Press here." She demonstrated, placing both palms against her lower ribs and pressing inward while exhaling, long and slow. Sarah copied the motion. Something released in her chest. A knot she hadn't known was there. "Belly fat is emotional weight made visible," Dr. Wei said quietly. "Cortisol from chronic stress signals fat cells to expand and hold. You cannot think your way out of this. You must move the energy. Exhale it. Release it." Sarah flew to Chicago the next week with a small heating pad in her suitcase. The hotel room was generic, sterile, cold. She wanted to order room service and collapse into bed with the TV on. Instead, she heated water in the in-room coffee maker, made ginger tea in a paper cup, and laid the heating pad across her lower belly for 20 minutes before sleep. The conference was loud, chaotic, full of rich food and late dinners. Sarah ate breakfast at the hotel, oatmeal fruit, eaten slowly while others rushed through bagels and pastries. She attended lunch sessions but left early to walk, slowly, breathing through her nose, watching the Chicago streets without scrolling her phone. At the networking dinner, someone made a comment about her ordering soup instead of steak. "On a diet?" they asked. "Not really," Sarah said. "Just trying to eat lighter at night." "Good luck with that," they laughed. She felt the tightness return, chest clenched, breath shallow, the old shame rising. But she remembered Dr. Wei's instruction. She excused herself, stepped outside into the cold Chicago air, and pressed her palms against her ribs. Exhaled fully. Once, twice, 3 times. The knot loosened. The shame faded. She went back inside, finished her soup, and left early. The heating pad became a ritual. Morning and night, 20 minutes, lying still while warmth penetrated her belly. She felt something shifting, not just physically but psychologically. The heat felt like permission to rest, to stop fighting, to let her body soften. When she returned home, Tom noticed. "You look different," he said. "Different? How?" "I don't know, calmer, less tense." She didn't tell him about the moxa or the heating pad or the rib pressing. She just made ginger tea in her regular mug and sat with him on the couch, not eating, not snacking, just breathing and letting the warmth from the tea spread through her chest. That night, she stood in front of the mirror and lifted her shirt. Her belly looked softer, flatter. The ring around her middle had visibly decreased. She pressed her fingers against the skin and felt warmth where there had been coldness. She circled clockwise, feeling her digestion move smoothly, easily, without the bloating and tightness that had defined the last 5 years. It wasn't magic. It was just heat. But heat meant safety, and safety meant her body could finally let go. The 5th appointment felt different. Sarah had been following the habits for 8 weeks now. She'd lost 11 pounds, but that wasn't what mattered most. Her clothes fit comfortably. Her digestion was regular. She slept through the night. Her energy was stable, no more afternoon crashes, no more desperate reach for coffee. But more than that, something had changed in the way she inhabited her body. She no longer felt at war with it. The constant negotiation, should I eat this, should I skip that, should I push harder at the gym, had quieted. Dr. Wei greeted her with the porcelain cup already filled, steam rising. Sarah had brought her own cup now, a simple ceramic one she'd found at a thrift store. It wasn't as beautiful as Dr. Wei's, but it was hers. She drank from it every night. "You are different," Dr. Wei said, not as a question but as an observation. "I feel different," Sarah admitted, "but I don't understand why. I'm not doing anything extreme. I'm not starving myself. I'm not killing myself at the gym." "Exactly," Dr. Wei said. She placed the needles with the same calm precision as always, but this time she spoke while working. "Western approach to belly fat is war," she said. "Fight the body, restrict, punish, force. But the body is not the enemy. The body is a system that responds to signals. When you send signals of danger, restriction, stress, exhaustion, cold, chaos, it protects, it stores, it holds." She pressed her fingers against Sarah's abdomen, circling slowly. "What you have been doing is not fighting. You have been sending different signals. Warm water says digestion is safe to begin. Abdominal massage says it is safe to move, to flow. Eating on the clock says rhythm is reliable, predictable, safe. Heat says you are warm, cared for, protected. Exhaling stress says the danger has passed." Sarah lay still, feeling the needles, the pressure of Dr. Wei's hands, the words sinking in deeper than anything she'd read in magazines or heard from trainers. "The real secret," Dr. Wei continued, "is not what you do. It is what you stop doing. You stop sending signals of emergency. You stop treating your body as something to be conquered. You start treating it as something to be tended, like a garden, like a child, with consistency, with gentleness, with time. Tears slipped from the corners of Sarah's eyes, unexpected and quiet. She hadn't realized how much anger she'd been carrying, at her body, at herself, at every failed diet and missed workout and moment of shame in front of the mirror. And now, 8 weeks of warm water and slow meals and gentle heat had done what years of punishment never could. "Belly fat is not the problem," Dr. Wei said softly. "Belly fat is the symptom. The problem is a nervous system that never rests, a body that never feels safe enough to let go." After the session, Sarah sat with the porcelain cup in her hands, drinking ginger tea slowly. Dr. Wei sat across from her, silent, letting the truth settle. "What about the 6th habit?" Sarah asked eventually. Dr. Wei smiled. "You are already doing it," she said. "The 6th habit is presence. Being here, drinking tea without distraction, walking after meals without rushing, breathing without thinking about the next thing. This is the habit that holds all the others. Without it, the warm water is just water, the massage is just rubbing, the heat is just temperature. Presence makes them medicine." Sarah thought about the nights she'd spent on the couch with Tom, half watching TV, half scrolling her phone, eating chips without tasting them. She thought about the mornings she'd gulped coffee in the car, already answering emails at red lights. She thought about every meal eaten standing, every walk taken while listening to podcasts, every moment lived anywhere but here. "It's the hardest one, isn't it?" Sarah said. "Yes," Dr. Wei agreed, "because it costs nothing and requires everything." Sarah scheduled her next appointment, but something told her this was the turning point. Not because the transformation was complete, it wasn't, but because she finally understood what she was doing. She wasn't following a diet. She wasn't executing a plan. She was learning to live in a body that felt safe enough to let go. That night, she made ginger tea in her ceramic cup and sat at the kitchen table with Tom. "Can I tell you something?" she said. "Of course. I'm not on a diet. I'm just living differently. And I don't think I'm going back." Tom looked at her for a long moment. "I can see that," he said. "You seem, I don't know, like you're actually here." She reached across the table and took his hand. Outside, traffic hummed. Inside, the house was warm. Her belly was soft. Her breath was slow. And for the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about what she should be doing differently. She was just here. 6 months later, Sarah stood in Dr. Patterson's office holding a printout of her latest blood work. Cholesterol down, triglycerides down, fasting glucose normal, liver enzymes improved. Dr. Patterson looked genuinely surprised. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it," he said. Sarah thought about explaining the warm water, the abdominal massage, the timing of meals, the heat, the breathing, the presence, but she could already see the skepticism forming in his expression, so she just nodded and said thank you. The real changes were the ones he couldn't measure. The way she woke up before her alarm now, body ready, rested. The way her digestion moved smoothly, predictably, without the bloating and discomfort that had been her constant companion. The way her energy stayed stable through the day. No crashes, no desperate caffeine grabs, no brain fog. She'd lost 18 pounds total, but that number felt almost irrelevant. Her body had reshaped itself, not dramatically, not into magazine perfection, but into something softer, more functional, more hers. The tight ring around her middle had dissolved. Her clothes hung differently. People asked if she'd lost weight, but what they really meant was, you look different, calmer, more present. Marcus had stopped teasing her, partly because the changes were too obvious to dismiss, and partly because he'd started asking questions, small ones, casual ones, thrown out while they waited for meetings to start. "So you really think it's about when you eat?" he'd asked last week. "I think it's about a lot of things," Sarah had said. "But yeah, timing matters, a lot." She didn't push, she didn't evangelize. She just kept bringing her lunch, eating at noon, heating soup in the microwave at 6 p.m. before heading home. She kept her ceramic cup on her desk, drinking warm water throughout the day. She kept her heating pad in her bottom drawer for the occasional stressful afternoon when her belly tightened and she needed 20 minutes of warmth to soften it again. Tom had started asking her to teach him the abdominal massage. He'd been having his own digestive issues, nothing serious, just the same low-grade discomfort that most people carried without thinking about it. She'd shown him the circular motion, clockwise, firm but gentle. Now, sometimes at night, they'd sit on the couch, hands on their bellies, breathing slowly, and she'd think about how strange this would have seemed a year ago, how intimate, how vulnerable. Dr. Wei had reduced their appointments to once a month. The needles still helped, the moxa still brought relief, but Sarah had learned the habits. She practiced them daily. They were no longer efforts or disciplines, they were just how she lived. The porcelain cup from Dr. Wei's office had become a symbol. Sarah had asked about it once, where it came from, if it was special. "It was my teacher's," Dr. Wei had said. "She gave it to me when I finished my training. It reminds me that medicine is not complicated. Hot water, ginger root, thyme, presence. These are the things that heal." Sarah had started drinking from her own ceramic cup every night with an intentionality that felt ceremonial. Not religious, not mystical, just sacred. The way anything becomes sacred when you do it with full attention, with gratitude, with the recognition that small things carry enormous weight. One evening, Tom asked her why she did it. Why the same cup, the same routine, the same slow sips in the quiet dark. "Because it reminds me," she said. "Of what?" "That I'm not at war anymore." She couldn't explain it better than that. The cup, the tea, the warmth in her hands. It was a peace treaty with her own body, an acknowledgement that she didn't need to conquer or control or force. She just needed to tend, to notice, to show up. Rachel, who'd recommended Dr. Wei in the first place, came over for dinner. Sarah made soup, simple, warm, eaten before 7. They walked after, slowly, around the neighborhood, breathing the cool evening air. "You're glowing," Rachel said. "I'm really not," Sarah laughed. "No, I'm serious. You look different, not just thinner. Different." Sarah thought about it. Different. She was different. But not because she'd become someone else, because she'd finally stopped fighting who she was. That night, alone in the kitchen, she made ginger tea one more time. The kettle whistled. She sliced a thin piece of ginger root. She poured the hot water into her ceramic cup and sat at the table in the soft light. No phone, no TV, no distraction. She pressed her fingers against her belly and circled clockwise. The motion automatic now, muscle memory, a gesture of care so ingrained it felt like breathing. Her belly was warm, soft, quiet, no bloating, no tightness, no armor. She thought about Dr. Wei's words. The body is not the enemy. She thought about all the years she'd spent at war, all the diets and restrictions and shame, all the mornings waking up exhausted and defeated, all the afternoons staring in the mirror with disgust. And then she thought about the last 6 months, the warm water, the slow meals, the heat, the exhaled stress, the presence, the impossibly simple habits that had quietly rebuilt her life from the inside out. The belly fat hadn't disappeared overnight. It had released slowly, over weeks and months, as her nervous system learned it was safe to let go, as her body learned it was safe to rest, as she learned that discipline wasn't about force, it was about rhythm, environment, and the small, repeated gestures of care that accumulate into transformation. She finished her tea and rinsed the cup, setting it carefully on the counter. Tomorrow, she'd wake before her alarm, drink warm water sitting down, circle her belly clockwise, eat breakfast at 8, lunch at noon, dinner before 7. She'd walk after each meal. She'd press her ribs when stress came. She'd place the heating pad on her belly before sleep. She'd sit with her tea in the quiet dark. It wasn't magic, it was just life, but it was a life where her body finally felt like home. If this story reminded you that real transformation comes from small habits repeated over time, not from overnight fixes. Subscribe to the channel, tell us which country you watch from, and invite someone to start this journey with you in the next story.